There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Yes, indeed. We are here. You are welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes to life. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you wherever you are at this very moment in time. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning into yourself first and then tuning into Being You, the podcast. I was going to go back in memory there. Because when you tune in, you listen. When you listen, you create the space to be transformed. I am Ade, your transformational beingness artist. Welcome to another episode of Ade Presents, Being You. the journey back to yourself. This is season 3, episode 12. Today's Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. On Being You podcast, we remind you, we encourage you, we nudge you, we invite you to take a look at how you see yourself. Because if you are not self-aware, you are a danger to yourself. You may be thinking everybody else is a problem, but no, you're the problem. Because if you keep finding people that are just causing hell, wreaking havoc, and you're the one noticing it, I think you're the one. So we invite you to take a look at how you see yourself, how you see the world. What are you seeing? What's being reflected back to you? How do you see yourself in the world? You know, what role are you playing in this world that you are loving, affirming, judging, criticizing? What role are you playing? Is it just them other people? Or are you adding some of your them to the thems? So all the them of you are creating havoc. Or maybe all the thems of you are creating a world that feels honoring to your body, to your spirit, to your soul. And then if you really want to take it to the next level, we invite you to take a look and see how you see that world. The world out there, how do you see it in you? How is it showing up? Maybe you're the projector, projecting your drama, your story, your graphics, your sound, your playlist, your soundtrack onto the screen of life. Well, we want to do some projecting, affirming, declaring, conversing. We want to just, reflect some of our thoughts. I got my brother here today joining me. I'm really excited about this conversation. And the topic is, what can men do to uplift women? Somebody's in the chat room. In Instagram, they're gonna run away now. I won't call them out. Nice to see you, Mona. Thank you for being here. Thank you, those of you who are listening. Quali, New Jays, the vice president and the president. I don't know, maybe it's a co-president. You guys have been part of the membership for a long time. And those of you who are not in the chat room, but you're listening, I call you silent listeners, silent viewers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And we invite you to join the conversation. Share your thoughts, share your disagreements, share your agreements, share your testimony, whatever you're going through and growing through. And we also invite you to join us on the Being You podcast page on Facebook, facebook.com/Being You podcast. For more interactive chat, hang out with Quali and others. That way we can see your questions. We're definitely guaranteed to see your questions or thoughts if you want us to share that on screen, or something that you want us to address. If you're listening, watching through another platform, we may not see your questions or your comments, so just be aware of that. We are still honoring women. This is Women's History Month, so all the shows this month has been geared towards focusing specifically towards women's issues. We started off with Divine Feminine with Ph.D. And then last week we had LaShawn Table, and we talked about the sacred womb, your seat of power. Today we are talking about, the conversation is, what can men do to lift up women? And next we're going to wrap it up with a dear sister of mine, powerful sister. We haven't quite given a theme yet, but brace yourself. I don't know why. I'm in an open room. I'm in the same room. Apparently I got some echo. I don't know why I got echo. Okay, just pretend. Marian, so nice to see you. You join on Soul Fulfilling every Wednesday, and now you're hanging out with us on Being You. Thank you for being here, my dear sister. All right, so today, like I said, the theme is what men can do to lift up women. There's so much we can do to lift up the women in our lives, our daughters, our nieces, our cousins, stepdaughters, goddaughters, grandmothers, wives. We're going to talk more about that. But let me really run through this quick announcement. I'm going to run through the quick announcement. If it's so quick, why am I running? I don't know. It just sounded good when I said it. But then I heard it. Anyway, Well, I do want to say thank you to everyone who joined me this past weekend, this past Saturday, where I completed my leader in training with Interplay. Now I'm a certified leader with Interplay, and that was a great session, which was themed "Spring into Joy." Some of you couldn't make it. Thank you for sending your love, just your love, in so many ways. Yeah, it was pretty powerful for me to see all those faces and the support. And FYI, for those who I did post on Facebook, I was just adding it to my profile. But you only, as far as I know, you only get to add this new position as a job. And I actually wasn't thinking about that. So it said that I got a new job in Los Angeles. And there are a lot of you that are waiting for me to come back to America. And you're like, are you back? Oh my God, that's so cool. That's so cool. It's good to have you back. Well, I'm back virtually, but I'm not physically in America. I'm coming back, but I'm not there yet. But I appreciate the love, the support. So what else do I want to tell you? I want to tell you about Lipsync, lipsync.com, Libsyn. If you're thinking of starting a podcast, already have one, and you're looking for another podcast hosting site, check out Lipsync.com. They're offering they offer unlimited storage. I am partnering with them. Because I partner with them, you get to get some goodies. Promo code ADE, ADE. So if you sign up with them, hey Robin, how are you doing? If you sign up with them and you use my promo code ADE, you get up to 2 months free. You may get a little bit less, but whatever you do, do not sign up on the first of the month. You can sign up on the second, anytime from the second. But if you sign up on the first of the month, you just get 1 month free. But if you sign up after the second, you get up to 2 months free. Just FYI. Lipsyn.com, Libsyn.com, promo code ADE, ADE. Every Wednesday, join me, myself, Ricky Byers, so fulfilling, soulful songs and soulful conversations. Every Wednesday, if you're in America, it's Thursday. If you're in the UK, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Justice Thursday is 1 a.m. UK time. Our time in the UK is going forward this Sunday, so then we're back to the regular 2 a.m. for those of you in UK. But in America, it's all good. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and join us. It's a great show. I love it. It has its own unique energy, and I haven't been able to kind of qualify it, so I won't. I just know that it touches me in a different way from this show. I don't know, but it is what it is. One other thing, or maybe two other things, yes. A Woman's Journey of Healing and Hope, a virtual annual retreat held on Zoom this year, hosted by Kathy Stringer. So I want to invite you to check out her website, which is, I have to say that real slow because it trips me up. So that's WOMANS Journey Retreat.com, Woman's Journey Retreat. Check it out. Vicky Bass is going to be one of the speakers. There are other teachers there. Jill Palucci. Kathy is going to be speaking. If you don't know Kathy, Kathy's John Stringer's wife. And if you know John Stringer, then you know Kathy. Rashawn, Renee. There are other women who are going to be there. But this is a space for women to grow together, to come together. And I want to tell you, if that day is free, you should really look to signing up and attending, because healing happens in community. In the Western world, sometimes we say, it's you don't need anybody else. I get that idea. Just like the hand doesn't need the other hand to be what it needs to do, but balance happens when the hands are working together. So when you heal, when you come together with intention to heal, to embrace, to accept your life as it is with other people in community, the frequency is exponential. Things are fast. Things happen quicker than if you're doing it on your own. Sometimes you doubt your own healing. Sometimes you doubt what you're hearing. But if you're in a community and you hear something that feels like guidance, but you're not quite sure, and you express it, and somebody else can affirm the guidance you downloaded, you're like, oh, okay, I knew I got something going on. So check it out. It's Saturday, April 17th to Sunday, April 18th, 2021. Website address once again is womansjourneyretreat.com. Now, there's a code, so you get 10% discount off the registration. If you use my code, you don't have to, but hey, why not? You get goodies with me just by listening. So the promo code is WJ2021 dash or hyphen LCA. WJ2021 dash LCA. And one other thing I just need to tell you now, there's more, I'll share more about that later on. I am presenting a 3-month event called Representing Our Ancestors, Representing Our Stories. It's April 24th, May 15th, and June 19th. Save the date. I'll give you more information about it. But what I will say is this is an opportunity for us to humanize our ancestors. From American perspective, oftentimes when the ancestors have been spoken about, there's a lot of focus on their pain and their suffering. But they had joy. They had laughter. They looked up at the sky and they were inspired. They stayed alive long enough to give birth to the next generation and the next. They made love. They all the joys that you're feeling, they felt it too. That might sound triggering, but deal with it as a human being, no matter the condition. Look at what we're living in right now. It's challenging, but people are creating businesses. People are learning a new way to connect. It happened back then. So let's not just talk about how horrible it is. Let's celebrate how powerful it was as well. And that's what we're doing. So we're representing our ancestors to ourselves and to the rest of the world. Whoever wants to pay attention. And then you get to represent your own story in a new way. So anyway, thank you very much for being here. Theme today, like I said, is what can men do to lift up women? I don't know. I have no idea. But I have somebody who can help us. Well, that's not true. I'm not going to pump myself like that. I got something to say. You know, I got a lot to say. Let's just take a deep breath in. And breathe out the breath of life, knowing that you are one with the one. Knowing that life is for you, never against you. And even if you believe, accept, convicted that life is against you, take a deep breath in and breathe out. And know that life will continue to love you, whatever you believe or not. Whether you believe you're worthy or not, life is going to love you. Life has no choice but to love you. And if you shift the way you're looking at it, you just might have a different experience. Let me tell you about my brother. He's a returning guest, and I love his perspective. I love his work. I love that he's a brother who's a therapist, and I love the fact that he's a therapist who is a brother. So we're gonna dance between that. Some of his perspective I would like to hear is him, coming from the space that he's a brother who's a perspective, a brother who's a therapist, and then his perspective from a therapist who is a brother. When I say brother, a black man, because that's just what we do. I make no apologies for it. If you want to be a brother, be a brother. All right? I'm just saying. He's my brother. He ain't heavy. So you can choose to be whatever you... Okay. All right. You can... Okay. No. We're not going to do that. Dr. Curtis D. Jasper. I'm being hijacked, but I need to be able to read his bio. And then we can jump in. A human behavior specialist who uses a psycho-emotional, psycho-spiritual, decolonized, non-clinical therapeutic approach to individual therapy. He's trying to trip me up, but I can read. Thank God for God. Group therapy and couples counseling while specializing in Black men's issue with his own lived experiences. He also cultivates culture competency, and emotional intelligence and wellness. This is his specialty. This is things that really wakes him up in the morning. He doesn't need an alarm. Dr. Kurt is a former award-winning public school educator turned speaker, counseling psychologist, human behavior relationship expert, a social scientist, teaching people how to therapize themselves. You're trying to trip me up, but I refuse. I ain't going down. Dr. Kurt is the executive director of I Am International Inc. I had to say it like that. I am. That's an affirmation. Claiming your identity. I Am International Incorporated, a worldwide personal development training organization. He works, rests, and plays in Atlanta, Georgia, my other home. And his social media handle, if you want to find him, track him down on Facebook, is at Dr. Curtis D. Jasper, Curtis D. Jasper. Make sure you put the dot, Dr. Curtis D. Jasper. On Twitter, at Dr. Curtis D. Jasper. And on Instagram, at I am Dr. CURT. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, psychics and skeptics, all of you, physical beings and non-physical beings, help me welcome my brother, my friend, myself, Dr. Kurt. What's up, Doc?
Thank you, sir. What's going on? Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely.
And, as I said, I really want to hear your perspective on this conversation from the point of a brother who's a therapist. So from a brother's perspective and a therapist's perspective, because there are many ways we can approach this. But I just want to check in with you. How have you been? What are you up to? What are you creating? How's your life unfolded?
Life is great. Very busy. Got a bunch of new opportunities that's allowing me to grow. I got a few things that I've had on my list, my goal and intentions list for a while that have now come to fruition. So I'm excited about that. And I'm just busy, man, helping people navigate through their lives emotionally, helping families, helping young people, helping mothers and sons, helping small groups, helping couples. So I'm grateful to be in the space that I am now. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Are you more busier than you were 2 years ago?
I am. I'm probably busy. I've been busy during the pandemic since this time last year, probably more than I ever have from a private practice standpoint.
Yeah, we might get a little bit into that. Of course, we're not talking about telling the business of your clients, but just, what you're getting from that, what people are recognizing and realizing.
Sure.
So let's jump in. Well, actually, before we jump in, I know you're returning, but there might be some people listening to you for the first time. On Being You, we always do the names. Like, what does your name mean to you? Because the name, I believe, is our soul signature. Our name has its own vibration. All the names, they carry a vibration in how we show up in the world. So if you don't mind, once again, tell us about your name or names, if you want to do the first and last name. Most people don't do their last name. I don't know why. But what does it mean to you? What does it mean?
So thank you. It's funny you asked that. This month was my birthday. So obviously, yeah. So we...
I tell people that March is the most important month of the year. All the other months is like, whatever.
I think so too, but hey, March is it. So I turned 50 on the 8th. So I'm very grateful to be here in sound mind, body, and spirit. My first name is Curtis. My aunt, here's the story that I got. So my aunt suggested the name to my mother at the hospital. And so it was inspired by the soulful musician Curtis Mayfield. And back in the 70s, he was everything. So when I think of my name, I think of soulfulness, and I think of traditional Black man masculinity from a healthy perspective. Whenever I think of my name, that's what shows up to me. My mother, my aunt, Curtis Mayfield, soulfulness, and black man masculinity.
That's it. I hear that. What about Jasper? What does that mean? Do you know?
Yeah, so Jasper, of course, is my father's name. Interesting enough, my father's father, so my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, I never met. My father only met him a couple times in his. And I don't think that was my paternal grandfather's original birth name, right? So my brother did some ancestry stuff years ago and find out that somehow Jasper came about with the family who raised my paternal grandfather, but I don't think he was born with Jasper. So,
Wow.
You're right.
Stories. That's what I love about names, because we learn so much about people and
Right.
our ancestors and our lineage and lineages and heritage. It's like there's so much in it, and there's so much that I think it's even taken for granted sometimes. And if we investigate it, we'll discover more about ourselves.
Sure.
And yeah, because that we can just take this conversation and just go with that, and we'll do the whole show. But that's not what today's topic is about, right? So, of course, like I said, March is the most important month of the year. So you and I and several other people, we decided to celebrate women during our month because we're just generous like that. So this is Women's History Month. What are your thoughts on that? This whole idea of having a month to recognize women's contribution to women in the world. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's necessary. I actually think it's critical for us to acknowledge women, obviously, throughout the entire year. But if we had to awfully dedicate one month to them, I'll take it on my birth month. What's significant for me is that my mother physically transitioned during this month as well, 11 years ago.
What date? Which date was it?
On the 20th. So we're talking a few days ago, on Saturday.
My mom was March 18th.
Wow.
So we got that in common.
Wow. And so, part of what helped me get through the grief when my mother transitioned is really celebrating all of the things she instilled, like her personal history. And I still do for this day. And so part of my grief teaching is, man, we got to flip this thing into a celebration. So it's really, really special for me to have this month dedicated to Women's History Month. It's just an overall great feeling for me and through me.
Yeah. So I never made that connection about this month being Women's History Month. Is the month when my mom left the planet, and like I think 12 years now. Amazing. I always know it's 10 days before my birthday, so it's kind of leaves me feeling a certain kind of way. Not sad, just like interesting. But yeah. So the conversation today is what men can do to uplift women. There's so many things we can talk about, and we'll talk about quite a bit. Just to be inspired by our conversation. But when you hear that, what's the first thing that comes to mind, or what are some of the thoughts that comes to mind? What we men can do to uplift women?
I think it's more about who we can be in terms of doing. I think the doing part comes secondary. I think primarily we, as men, should be concerned with who we're being with sharing space with women. And that includes girls on up to our elder women. And so for me, it's more about who are we being in the presence of women? Are we accepting? Are we honoring? Are we creating spaces where they get to show up in their totality? Are we receiving and interacting with them holistically? Are we mindful of sexism and patriarchy and things that come with some of the global challenges that we've inherited as a people? So I think it's more about who we choose to be as men, because the women are going to shine. They are going to uplift. They uplift, the human civilization They've uplifted humanity, right? So we get that part. So I think it's a question of what can men do to uplift women. I think we should add who can men be ongoingly so that we could continue to interact, because I know that lifting is going to happen, particularly if we as men don't do some of the things that we've been conditioned to do. So if we focus on being open and loving and self-managed and self-compassion, I think that space, we do our healing work. We can hear different. We could see different. We could receive different. We could share space differently when we do our healing work. So it's more of a being thing to me. I do have ideas about what we can do to get to that. And so I'm sure I'll insert those as we go on.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I feel you and I love it. I'm like, okay, we're going to the deep end. That's what I'm about anyway. I'm safe in the deep end. The shallow end, I get nervous. I start hyperventilating. Like, oh my God, it's too shallow. I love what you're saying about who we can be, what we can be, and how we're showing up and doing the healing work. And I hear in my head several voices of female friends and clients wondering, well, I don't know, man. I'm just thinking of a word that I want that's here to use. So yes, there's two aspects. So they would say men don't seem to want to do the healing work. I hear sisters, black women talking about black men are just not into healing and spirituality or whatever. Like, how do I get my man to read with me, to come to a retreat with me, to go to a therapist with me? It's like they're just not into that. So from that place, when you talk about it's more about who we're being, and you work with black men, what is your perspective about men doing healing work? I personally feel like it doesn't get a lot of attention, but I believe men are doing the healing work. However, I ain't trying to get with a man. Women are. The women that are trying to get with a man saying, I need a man who's spiritual, who is grounded, who's doing the work. So what has been your experience with men, black men and men in general, when it comes to cultivating a space to be more than doing, to look the part?
Right. Great question. A couple things. First, I forgot, I overlooked acknowledging you, Ade. Congrats on season 3, episode 12. Come on, man.
Thank
That's
you.
huge, man. I wrote that down. I wanted to start with that. You know, shows like this, they come and go. So the mere fact that you're still feeding us with who you are, and I'm honored to be on this platform. The mere fact that you have this platform is nothing short but amazing to me. So I want to honor you with that season 3, episode 12 as my brother. Thanks for, man. Keep pushing, and I'm happy to be back. So you said, what is it? I didn't forget the question. My bad.
Let me sit back and pull back the question. Right. So you, because I be in the moment. I be listening. I be trying to download. So you were talking about men being it. You're talking. Okay, so the theme is what can men do, right. And women are saying, well, man. You talked about healing as well. Women are saying, well, most men don't want to do the healing work, or some of them would say they're lazy. Men don't. You know, we have all these stories and narratives about what men are not doing and what women would like to see their men do. Or those that are single and looking for men who are spiritually grounded, who is compassionate, who's understanding and come from that place of beingness. But so there's a narrative that men are not willing to do the work, not just black men, but just men in general. And because you work with men, I wanted to just hear your thoughts about what are you getting? What do you see? What's been your experience when it comes to men doing the work so they can come from that place of beingness rather than trying to do because they think society expects them to do a certain kind of way?
Right. Men are doing the work. The challenge from my professional experience is that they are on the effect of doing the work and not the cause of doing the work, meaning things happen to them. And then they're like, oh, there's some work that needs to be done. There's some healing work. They become emotionally exhausted. And then they have to, well, depending on how it's exhibited, they find themselves having to do the work. But you mentioned it, Ade, like there's this cultural conditioning that says men have to be ambitious. They are validated based on their value. What can they bring to the table? And it's mostly doing. Men are not mostly historically acknowledged for being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to do something, you got to protect, provide, right? And so we all
got to get a job.
you do, and you got to pay some bills, and you got to do
right.
all of these traditional things. And so we show up in this world doing that work.
Mm-hmm.
We're pushed to doing that work. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not that we don't want to do the healing. Some of us haven't even heard that it exists. It exists as a thing until we crash and burn oftentimes. I find that the men I come with, they have had some challenges. The women who call me on their behalf have gotten to the point where they're fed up, but they do want to do the work. What makes it easy is that they have someone who looks like them in order to feel safe and secure enough to start that healing journey. So even when men want to do the work, and there's layers to this. So first is the counter conditioning to get away from capitalism and protection and providing and patriarchy, male privilege, man privilege in general. And then it's, I got feelings and emotions and things of that nature. But I'm not sure who's actually with me on this. Most of the men who go through something very tough emotionally, they feel that they are the only one on the planet who's going through this. The only one. They know other men have been divorced. They still feel they're the only one feeling this. Right. They know other men have been broke. They still think they're the only one who feels broke like this. They know other men have been separated from their children. They still feel they're the only one who feels like this during the separation. So it's my job to create a safe haven to let them know, like, nah, bruh, it's all of us, different degrees, but it's all of us. So what I offer women is to continue to hold space and faith that men are doing that work. There is a timing and step to this, but they have to unlearn this whole protect and provide at all costs, bypass your feelings. And that's a very dangerous space when you share life with a man oftentimes.
Yes. So I like where you took it from the beginning of the show. It's more about the way of being, which is what the show is about, being you. And being you can be sometimes scary, because what if I decide to say no to people, friends and family that I've always said yes to? What if I want to say no to a job that's pays me well, got benefit, got health insurance, something in my soul is telling me I need to leave this job. But yet my grandparents, my parents, my in-laws are saying, he's a good man, he's got a good job. How do we get men who are in that space, or men who are saying, I don't know about that feeling things? How do we get them to actually be in conversation and maybe possibly even embracing a little bit more, embracing their own feelings?
Well, men listen to men who they value as being worthy of listening to, right? Like we all listen to somebody. Oftentimes we try to strong arm men on who they need to receive the message. No, we have very peculiar ways we like to receive messages from particular messengers before we even absorb the message, right? And so men are complex on who they receive messages from because they get it all the time. We get it all the time. We are inundated with all of these messages, right? Spiritual messages and financial messages, right? And so we spend a lot of time sifting, sorting, and selecting on which message we need to internalize. What I find is the more men who are showing themselves to be authentic, not perfect, not flawless, but authentic in who they are, gives permission for other men to say, oh, okay, yeah, how you show up on your show, right? It gives other men space to be like, oh, okay, you can be who you are. You can be funny. You can be charming. you can be the whole gamut and still be who you are. So more men have to show up, right? The men who are afraid to write those books and start those podcasts and start those businesses, we're waiting on y'all because it's only a certain men out of roughly 8 billion people, half of them being men on the planet, only a particular few going to get it from you. So we need you out here because they only going to hear it spiritually from you, from your look, your tone, your word choices. And so we need you. We need more men available, being their authentic selves, so that the rest of us could be like, yeah, I rock with dude. He's pretty. He spoke to me. He spoke to my spirit.
It's so true, that whole thing about having value in someone, listen to people with value, and or else we don't leave ourselves open. I was having a conversation with my producer yesterday, and which is inspiring this question now is, and it's really about the conversation about male ego. You know, sometimes people say male ego is fragile. And one of the experiences I had, that in a way, I don't know, I still don't necessarily feel like it was fragility, but it could be. I remember there were times, well, actually, no, I was reading, it's either I was watching Michelle Obama's interview or reading her book, Becoming. And I remember she talks about Barack Obama asking, when they went on the first date, I think it's the first date, on one of their dates anyway, he asked, "May I kiss you?" And she said yes. And I remember when I heard that, it hit me like, ooh, it's almost like I'd never heard that before. And that was probably like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And then I thought, well, normally what I do is I kind of assess the vibe. And if it looks like something might be happening, I might just reach in and give a kiss. But there were times I felt the vibe. I didn't reach in because I was afraid she's going to say, nope, what you doing? So the conversation I was having with my producer yesterday sort of bring this whole thing about male ego and the people that we listen to. Yes, it is important to listen to people that we value. But are men's ego that fragile for real?
Everybody's ego is fragile. Men's ego is afraid. It's fearful. It's mad, right? We all have egos, right? We relate, I think, unnecessarily and unfairly ego to being a male specific thing. Your ego very well serves you, right? It keeps you safe. It's designed, it has a lot of goodness in there, right? It's only when you have an unhealthy ego that it becomes a challenge. And we as human beings possess those, right? So it's not a male thing, right? We all possess unhealthy egos. And so my ego, let me use myself as an example. My ego is designed to serve and protect me. It's designed to show up for me even when I'm doubting myself in a healthy space without causing harm to someone else. If I am rejected, yeah, that has more to do with other parts of me than my ego, right? That has to do with, my feelings, my heart,
Right?
there's some expectations, right? And so, right. So we forget the whole mushy stuff that men possess just as women do, right? So we're like, oh, he got fragile ego. Well, I know plenty of women got fragile egos. Trust me. Can't say anything. They don't deal well with rejection, all of the things that we've assigned. What I find is that men are very fearful, and we don't handle fear very well. We don't handle being afraid. We don't like not feeling good. And so if it's predicated on us being rejected, particularly by a woman, it's the fear of not looking a certain way.
Yes.
Right? More so than a fragile ego, right? It's the fear as a human being in male form that's like, she rejected me. Does that mean I'm not good enough? Is it my breath? Does she not like me? Things in your mind, right? Because it starts.
Or maybe even, am I man enough? Maybe
right.
I'm not man enough for her, right?
Correct. But that's a way of managing your reactions to your emotions. That's a way of honoring yourself. Like, yeah, I'm feeling the complexity of emotions and I'm still okay. Maybe she didn't want to kiss you for her own reasons. So you mentioned like the example you mentioned, Ade, about asking versus, moving in for the vibe. I think they both have its place. I think obviously it's good to articulate your intentions and ask for permission when it comes to making a move on a woman's body or in her personal space. But I also think there's a vibe that we exchange, and love and attention and affection has to have courage around it, right? So it's that fine line. Like, you gotta have courage if you vibe, and she may be waiting 2 weeks and you ain't even kissed her yet because you missing the vibes. Right.
Yes. I've had that where a woman called me and she said, listen, next time we go on a date, if you ain't going to kiss me, we don't need to go on a date.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, okay.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
meet me on Monday. We're going to work together. We went to IHOP first, but all I wanted to hop on was the kiss. But I waited till after we ate.
Right. And so I think it has its place, like, hey, how when the timing is right, like how you do intimacy. You're a wordy person, make your moves, and kind of just checking in with that. But there is a certain amount of courage that you must possess to interact from a healthy emotional standpoint.
Yeah. And I think that relating, and also I want to just say this for listeners, we're not just talking about romantic relationship, because I think that's very important. Because it's so easy when we talk about male and female relationship, we instantly go to, I'm maybe overgeneralizing, go to romance. But as we said before, this is about what we can do for our daughters, our nieces, our mothers, the wives in our lives, our sister-in-laws, and the aunties, the grandmothers. This is about how can we show up fully. And I'm very clear that for us to show up, we need to show up for ourselves.
Sure.
The more comfortable we are in our own feelings, the more we can hold space for the women in our lives.
Sure.
And so, just thinking about that feeling thing that we're talking about, and I look back at myself, men in my generation, I don't remember actually getting any conversation around honoring my feelings. It's something that I learned when I stepped on the conscious spiritual path. I say conscious spiritual path because we're always on a spiritual path, whether we know it or not.
Sure.
But when I started the conscious spiritual path, the journey, then I started to learn more about things that I was feeling when I was younger, and like, oh, that makes sense. And it seems to me that honoring the feelings of being comfortable, accepting or embracing feelings is much more easier for women. I could be wrong, but it seems as a young girl or even as a little girl, the kids have this little babies they carry around and taking care and nurturing and pushing, well, what's called in UK a pram, but in America it's called something else, I can't remember right now. But there's this sort of nurturing way of being that is encouraged as a girl, as a teenage girl. But for us men, we're often raised to be strong, to get ready to go out in the world and conquer the world. So, that feeling thing is often foreign to us. What are some of the things that you would suggest prescribe for men in being able to, especially when they find themselves in spaces where they're feeling like, yeah, I know a lot of people. My boy, he's gone through a divorce, but he ain't feeling what I'm feeling. And I can't really talk to him about this because he's going to think I'm a punk. What are some of the things that men could do to start to be a little bit more familiar with their feelings, even in their masculinity? Because we're not talking about being a woman. It's being able to honor your feelings, your emotions in your masculine representation.
Right.
What are some of the things that you suggest?
So first, there's an educational part that's I feel is necessary. So we don't actually understand feelings and emotions, right? In general, but specifically for men, we oftentimes, lots of men are what I consider emotionally illiterate, right? Mm. They know excitement and they know anger. That's it. But they don't know bitterness and sad and mad and envy and jealousy and disappointment. They don't have that, right? So they know how.
If they don't have it, you mean they don't have the language for it? They feel it, but they don't have the language for it.
Correct.
Right?
They don't have the language nor the consciousness to actually tap in to say, what is that I'm feeling? Oh, that's this, right? Mm-hmm. They can be taught that. I had to learn that, right? But because of our conditioning, we know how to get excited and we know how to get angry, right? Mm-hmm. So we will be sad and go straight to angry because we don't like feeling bad in general. Mm-hmm. So we'll get mad at ourselves for feeling bad and then project that out into the world. Mm-hmm. And it happens quick, right? So what I find is helpful is giving men the opportunity to become emotionally literate. Like, this is okay. This is this feeling. How do I know I'm feeling it? You're safe here. Because here's what I do know. All of us have at least one person that we open up to the best that we can.
Yes.
To the best that we can. It may not be a whole bunch of words. We might not have the language to the feeling, but we at least have one, generally speaking, but most of the people I know. So yeah, what I find is men can be and need to be educated on emotional literacy. What is it that they're feeling? What's the difference between a feeling and emotion? How does that stay around long enough when you're propelling your thoughts? Do we avoid the emotions, or do we manage the emotions, or do we manage our reactions to the emotions? Those are distinctions that have to be made. And that comes with just time and someone skillful and experienced enough to share that with men.
Yes, yes, yes. There are many places I want to go with that. And I know time is doing what time does. It keeps moving. So another way that I really believe we can, and start to cultivate a different way of being with our feelings and emotion is when we have children through parenting. So let's talk about men who are fathers. And if you have a man, not necessarily maybe a client or a friend, it's like, man, I got a daughter, and I remember how I was with the females in my life when I was a teenager, and I'm afraid for my daughter. I'm afraid. I mean, I don't want any boy coming near my daughter. What are some of the things we can do as men, as fathers, especially regarding communicating with our daughters and empowering them? Of course, we can't really empower them if we don't empower ourselves, right? So what are some of the things that we can do? What kind of conversations should we be having with our daughters, with our nieces, just to, in a way that we, through our own existence, we create a different reality, a more empowered reality.
So the ultimate goal is to live authentically, right? What we must remind ourselves is that we're always communicating something, right? Not very, very little with the words, because these children, these young people, they watch what we do. They don't really listen to what we say. They got enough noise in their head and through their phones that keeps them occupied, but they do watch what we do, right? And so as men, we need to make sure that we are living as authentically as possible, because we know the young people, our daughters, the young girls, goddaughters and nieces are watching our moves, and they are choosing to react to the men who will come into their life. Not respond, but react.
Yes.
Right? They don't really know how to properly respond. But if men are living authentically, meaning we're in touch, we're expressing ourselves through words and deeds and actions and behaviors and gestures, then they can kind of say, oh, that's it, right? Not using all words, not using all physicality. And that's generally speaking from our end. When we have direct experiences with girls, it's all about the validation. It's all about honoring who they are, inherently are. Right? Inherently are. Not putting fear tags like, okay, watch out for the dudes this way, right? Because she looking like, you that dude.
Right.
Right. Like,
Yes.
and they start pointing out flaws and hypocrisies because of that. It's mostly like, look, they're going to come for you. You're beautiful, you're smart, they're coming. They're here. They ain't coming, they're here.
Right. Right.
What I offer to you is to be who you are unapologetically. There's no force, right? No means no. You are all that you say you are. Beautiful, brilliant, ambitious. But here's the problem, though. Not the problem. Let me restate that. Here's some of the challenges. We show up emotionally how we received our caregiving from an emotional standpoint, even in our greatest days, right? So we parent how we would parent with very little distinctions. We think because, oh, my parents hit me, I don't hit my children. Nah, just a smidget of it. Or my parent didn't buy me this, I was neglected, so I'm gonna overparent with my children. Overparenting is just as damaging as underparenting in some cases.
Yeah.
So we always communicating is what I'm saying. I learned this from a mentor of mine. The number one thing we can do for our children is to show them that we live in a life that we love. so that they could always be reminded that you have that choice, you have that ability, and life is meant to be experienced from a great place. Not, oh, it's tough. You gotta watch out. You gotta get a job, pay them bills. You know the world gonna come. Here's the killers. Here's the politics. You know, all of that stuff.
All of that. Yeah. Just being in conversation with you is just affirming what I know. And, when the theme, the topic is what can men do to lift up women? At this moment, I'm very convicted that one thing, work on yourself.
Period.
Because that's it. Because the more we work on ourselves, the more we get to understand what it means to be authentic. Because sometimes we can say, I'm just being authentic. You piss me off. And sometimes the piss off may not have anything to do with the person in front of you. It's probably a trigger from something that happened behind you.
Absolutely.
That you're not dealing with in the now moment. So the more we work on self, the more we get to really get unraveled, get undone. And I think as we're committed to that process, we can get to a place where we relate with ourselves differently. So naturally, we're going to relate with the people in our lives differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. The work is on us. The work, you mentioned something I did that stood out to me. There's no rudeness in authenticity, right? You're not. I mean, there's no. I'm gonna cause discomfort to someone. That's not being authentic, right?
So when you're causing pain, you're saying when they're causing pain and suffering, that is not coming from being authentic.
Correct. Now, I'm not suggesting that other people won't receive you when you're not doing it as pain and suffering from their own triggers. Whole different conversation. What I am saying is you don't get to be, I'm going to be a jerk and rude and try to tell you and let my ego say I'm just being real or authentic.
I'm keeping it 100.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
That's 50%.
Yeah.
There's no 100. You're not even close.
Exactly.
Just stop.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
What about romantic relationships? What are some of the things that you experience with your clients, maybe even male friends, that some of the things that you feel like, maybe you experience, that you see it happening in different relationships and you're like, it really doesn't have to be this way. What are the misconception of relating with one another in a romantic context and then the real truth about it?
Right. Good question. So the number one challenge that romantic relationships think they fall into is communication. I get a call every single day. It's like, oh, we got problems communicating. And I'm like, when things going well or not so well? And they was like, oh, well, exactly. Not communication, right? Y'all don't have a problem communicating when things are going well. Which means it's not communication, it's conflict patterns, right? Communication only becomes a challenge when y'all don't see eye to eye, right? Because no one called me and said, we had a great time. We did everything together and we had communication challenges. I haven't gotten that call yet.
You're like, is the line still active?
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So it's not communication, it's conflict patterns. It's expressed through communication, but it's how we manage conflict based on our patterns and conditionings. So lots of times couples call me, they have gotten stuck in these conflict pattern roles. Defensiveness, contempt, right? Controlling and abusive behaviors, things of that nature, right? Using isms, ableisms, right? Things of that nature, using a lot of different tactics that we've learned, that we've inherited. And so when we are challenged with conflict patterns and emotional mismanagement, dangerous combination. And so those have to be learned and in a lot of instances relearned because we just didn't receive those from a healthy standpoint, most of us from our upbringings.
It seems like this generation, we are at the frontier of a new way of relating. I mean, not to say this kind of conversation wasn't happening with our parents and grandparents, but it was different. And I think we're in a place now where we're more awake. We know more. We can challenge more. Male and female, women and men are feeling more empowered to speak their truth, whether it's authentic or not, to say what they're thinking. And yet, I think sometimes this flood of information is causing us to sometimes still miss one another. So let's kind of take this direction. Here's another thing that I've been talking about. This whole thing about complimenting women and the issue with objectifying women. On social media, you can see a brother take a picture. You can tell that he lives in a gym and he goes home to get his smoothie and go back to live in the gym. And women will be like, ooh, he can get it. I want some of that. But for a woman, it's letting it all hang out. And brother's like, yeah, I want some of that. I want to tap that ass. The conversation usually is, why do men always have to objectify women? Why is it that you can't see us for more than blah, blah, blah? And it seems like the conversation is imbalanced. And I want to tie that in with compliments. It's like sometimes we find it kind of, I don't want to say too much because I don't want her to think I'm coming onto her. And I have a personal experience. So Leslie, my producer, she recently had braids done. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, it's beautiful. She had told me she was going to do it. And when she did it and I saw it the next day, I was like, wow, that's beautiful. So I was sending the message to her and I was like, because my first response was like, damn, she looks good. But then when I was sending it, I got very spiritual. Wow, it looks beautiful. This is really nice. I was kind of managing myself not to be too overly whatever, because I was afraid that she may misunderstand what I'm saying. And I also recognize it wasn't just with her, that sometimes I usually hold back when it comes to giving a woman a compliment because it can look like I'm trying to come onto the woman and trying to objectify her. And I know men who feel that way. How do we bridge that gap where, we can genuinely give a compliment and without it being, oh, you look good. I'm married. Oh, damn. I just said you look good. How do we what do we need to do as men and women so that we can create relationship and a way of communicating that honors us?
So there's a number of ways that show up. I think for the just generally speaking, we have to give ourselves permission to sort of relax and not be afraid to line up with how we actually feel, right? Now, there's obviously a timing and a way to say something, but I'd be remiss to say, okay, in light of the Me Too movement, never compliment a woman, right? Right? Never. Like, you don't want to get into
don't do
right?
it. Yeah, women, I had a Me Too thing because I was like, ooh, that might come across. But eventually I did tell her, I said, it looks beautiful. And I told her what I was telling you. It's like, I first have to tone it down a bit. But then I'm like, listen, this is the deal. But sorry, go ahead.
Right. So there's a number of ways to do it. You can, as you mentioned, like the Barack Obama thing, you can ask permission. Like, may I play you a compliment? If there's a level of uncertainty, you can ask permission, right? But let's
just like, may I pay you a compliment? Then just like, yeah. And now you're like, well, you look good.
Right. But it still may be a thing if you're feeling apprehensive but compelled to do it, right? This is it may sound kind of corny and disingenuous, but if you're uncertain and you feel that that's one way to kind of check the waters. But I want to be clear, just as human beings, we all have a humanistic desire to be seen, heard, felt, and understood. Let's be clear about that. Yes. None of us are putting anything online to be criticized about. Right? So I just did an event about objectification. Like, when we put an image on there, we only put in that one dimension. That's not really objectification when we haven't heard your voice, saw the back of your head, saw you out with your children, saw you at the grocery store. We only getting that.
Yes.
And so I think there's a way to complement that one or two dimensional image or video to be like, oh, she looks nice. We do it anyway. Do I have to be in her DMs to do that? No. I got at least one homeboy who I could express my healthy masculinity. Be like, man, I saw this chick on Instagram. She was fine.
Yes.
Without degrading her. Even in her absence, right? That's again like, how do we uplift women? I could say she had a nice ass without degrading her. I can, right? I could still hold space and uplift her and be in my masculine truth, particularly with my boys, with my partner. Like, oh, sister got a nice body, right? Because women see that. So in all, I think,
but would you say with your partner? Would you tell Charlie, damn, her ass looks fine? Or would you say she got a nice body?
I'd say she had a nice body. Like, I wouldn't. I mean, there have been times where we kind of shooting the, you know what, just as friends, we kind of go into it. And, you know, here's a joke. About 12 years ago, a friend of mine said, asses is going to be the big phenomenon. About 12 years in, we was like, what? He was like, everybody going to be liking and talking about asses. This was 12, 13 years ago. Here we are today. Right.
If you didn't understand that, then don't worry about it.
Period. So in all fairness, though, I think there's space for us to acknowledge each other. I think what we really have to be clear is on how to manage that, right? Oftentimes we are so traumatized that we think a lot of things mean sexual attraction, and it doesn't.
Yes.
And it doesn't. You can be fond of somebody. You could even like how they look and still not be sexually attracted for them, men and women, same gender, same sex, or opposite sex or gender, right? But most of us come from a space that because it feels good, it must be some sexual attraction.
Yes, right.
No, that's more of a trauma response than you tapping into the gamut of your emotions.
Yeah, let's drink to that. You just dropped it. Like, woo! Because I always say, and I've learned that lesson, just because you have a sexual, just because you have an attraction to a woman doesn't mean it's sexual.
Right.
And even if it's sexual, doesn't mean you need to follow that through.
Right.
And even if you do, either way, it's nothing wrong with it. You're going to learn what you need to learn.
Yes.
But we have to have enough awareness to say, okay, really, what's going on here? And that's that thing about really having a conversation, checking it out. And because you may be feeling something that she's not feeling or that he's not feeling.
Correct.
And I think that's very important. And the more we talk about this, because when we were approaching the show, I was sort of thinking what men can do, what men can do. And I also know that it is not one-sided. It's not just about what men can do. It's what women could do. It's a dance. Because in the dance is where there's balance, there's harmony. And there's a question here that I think goes along with that thought for me is, Marion said, is there anything we as women could or should do to assist men or encourage our men? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's always things to do. I think it's the same for women. I offer, Miss Lewis, to work on yourself, to be who you authentically are. It's that work that allows other people to show up in their truth, with their mistakes, with their shortcomings. Oftentimes, women are living in a field of expectations, are living in a road to recovery from trauma that they're not, even in their greatness, there's still work to do. The best thing we could do in any relationship is to become better at relating, to make the shift, better at relating. And that starts with the work you do for yourself. How's your inner self-talk, right? If you are not compassionate with your inner self-talk, right, it may show up for you in one or two different ways. You may attract somebody who who fulfills that as not being compassionate the way they talk to you, or you may be talking unkindly to somebody. The work is the work.
Yes.
How women can encourage men, work on yourselves. What I find from my profession, that's personally. Professionally, women call me like, hey, something's wrong with my guy. He's broken. Help fix him. I'm like, no, that's not how this works, right? So a lot of times women is like, if he would do or not do these things, then we could do or not do.
Yeah.
Maybe on a basic level, but what's required, because when you raise your energy, your spirituality, people will naturally either come or resonate out of your experiences.
Yes. Yes, so true. What about so many places I want to go with this thought? And, during the Black Lives Matter movement, and just it continues. It wasn't a moment, and it's a movement. During that time, I was hearing a lot of Black women say they're not being supported by Black men. There's there's a lot of videos and things that where the Black man supporting us when it comes to the issues that Black women experience in the medical field. There's conversation about Black men are not showing up. Sometimes I wonder if just a narrative, maybe it happened here and there, and people may be that the main news, or maybe if that's real. So I want to ask you, just based on that narrative and the kind of society we live in, I try not to don't want to give this statement too much power, but I'll say just now that we're in the Western world, we live in a white supremacist world, and even male privilege. Do you think that Black men face more challenge to uplift Black women? Are there some things that you think Black men are having to deal with that makes it difficult to uplift Black women?
I do. I think it's a host of things that make it very difficult for men to be received as uplifting Black women. Mostly not white, or what I refer to, not white supremacy, but white domination. That's different, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so there's a lot of impediments that are in our way as Black men that causes us to neglect Black women. I'm not suggesting it's an excuse at all, but it is a thing. It does exist, right? There are some economic, social justice, political obstacles, right? By the time we go through the fight of white domination and get to y'all to help create space, we already think that we need to help y'all solve a problem. Oftentimes, y'all just want to be heard. So we got to fight through domination, protect, provide. Then by the time we get home, we like, okay, what you need me to do, baby? And you're like, nothing. Just be quiet and let me get this out. And so it's the conditioning that, right? So it's sort of a hit and miss. Yeah. And, oftentimes between men and women in a relationship standpoint, most of the men I know are inherently good brothers who make a bunch of mistakes. Mm-hmm. Most of the women I know are inherently good sisters who make a bunch of mistakes. Mm-hmm. Because we are unresolved with the mistakes that were made to us in our earlier experiences, we hold people to the fire.
Yes.
Right? We don't create space for them to err on our watch. Mm. Right? Mm-hmm. So they make an error, we hold over their head, now they got to prove themselves over and over and over and over again. When you forgive and show self-compassion, self-worth, self-value, you know what that means.
Yes.
You know how to allow that space for your partner to do his or her work. Mm-hmm. Is there obstacles from white domination? Y'all know it is. We know it is. Always has been. Mm-hmm. Does that get in some of our way? At times. Yeah. Overall, is it doable to circumvent that? Yes, but we need the women, and we definitely need a coalition of brothers.
That's right. So true. And I think part of it is by the time going through what you say, white domination, I think some brothers are just exhausted by the time they get home. So when you talk about trying to fix, it's like, oh, God, okay, tell me what it is. How do I fix that? Get over there.
Right.
I'm trying to catch my breath.
Right.
I can literally breath. Right. I'm trying to get back to work tomorrow because I got to fight. And it's what you said is just we all got to learn to create listening for ourselves and be able to know what is ours and what isn't, because it's really not one without the other,
right?
Or the feminine is more stronger than the masculine or women, and that whole this statement that I'm about to say, I think is crap. There's nothing a man can do that a woman cannot do. I think that's crap. I stand by it. I represent it. Me too, me if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have different things that we can do. And equality doesn't mean sameness. You know, if that's what we're looking for, sometimes we deal with who we are spiritually just through an intellectual perspective. And it's like, there's nothing a man can do that a woman can't do, but a man can't. No. We need each other. My mentor always says, like, a bird needs both wings to fly. And if one wing is injured, then the bird ain't going too far.
Right.
And I think part of that is we need to create more space in our own minds and our own heart so we can hear one another. We can listen, we can share, and maybe even support one another and holding the pain, just holding space. But, you know, there's a lot that's going on in the world that sometimes make it challenging. And I would say, really, we need to kind of remove ourselves from all the drama of social media. Social media will tell you how to run your relationship, and social media don't even understand if you're in a relationship. and you gain all the information. There is a brother who used to, and still does, give information about relating with a woman, relating with women, and that's his platform. And apparently something new came out that they find out that he was cheating even while he was giving all that information. When I saw the video, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, that's just part of life. I think as teachers, there's a responsibility to be authentic and not just, I mean, people do it, not just come from a heady perspective. And I think it gives us an opportunity to realize that, yeah, you got to listen to your own intuition as you listen to people who you think are giving you information. Whether they've been around 10 years, 50 years, or you think they're an elder, it's still also my responsibility to listen to my own intuition and say, I don't know, something about this teaching doesn't feel right with my soul. But too many of us are often willing to see ourselves less and raise those people that are creating content like myself, you know, put them on a pedestal. So when they fall, it's like we fall. And I think it's important just to really protect our own relationships and being aware of what we're allowing into our own consciousness, into our homes that we're getting from social media. What advice do you have for people about social media? Because a lot of people, we all have opinions and we all have cameras. We all got our own radio stations and podcasts and studios and lives now. What advice would you share with people about that?
I think it's more of a managing part, right? Like there's a management piece that we must be cognizant on how we're using social media, right? Mm-hmm. There are people who use it as a way of life. There are people who use it for entertainment. There are people who use it for work. There are people who wake up, lift their head off the pillow and grab their phones from the nightstand, and they base their whole day on what pops up in them. So a lot of different reasons. I offer people to manage how you're taking in information in general. In this day and age, we're so overloaded with information. We got too much information. We don't spend enough time as our ancestors and elders did with allowing downloads to come to us spiritually, right? We are inundated with noise and ideas and content, right? Very few people that I know of actually spend quiet time at the first of the day, right? So I offer people to check in with yourself. How is it that your social media is mastering you? Not you mastering it, it masters you, right? Because we all have too much information. As far as the content providers who experience their humanness out loud, let me be clear. So a couple of things I don't. I don't actually personally share opinions of Black people, people of color on public because it's just not my thing. Do I have an opinion? We all do. But I got private people that I can kind of bounce ideas off of. I'm not using it on a tool because I don't think it's necessary. What I will offer people is, look, we're all experiencing humanity and everything that comes. And it takes a lot of courage to show yourself consistently online, right? Because you are held to a higher standard.
Yes.
The people who we receive that have somehow come out as what we consider to be fraudulent, manage your emotions around that, right? Your emotions are real. Your thinking may need to be questioned. That's the difference. Your emotions are real. Your thinking may need to be questioned. Instead of projecting the anger towards the person you have now charged with the transgression, just be with the fact that you're disappointed, that you felt that you have been misled, right? Because we think it's anger. Anger is perceived injustice. But you may be mad like you have been personally violated. That's different. You may be disappointed like, man, I held him here or her here, and they wasn't what they said. Well, you don't live with them. Right? So I offer people to show grace. When you show grace and compassion to yourself, you automatically are able to do that. I'm not saying show up for more what you consider abuse, but I am saying redirect that energy to something that serves you, unless you're being paid to be a critic. Unless you're being paid unless you feed your family off being an online critic. Otherwise, use your video, use your online, use your content to portray what you love, not what you hate, what you love. It's a whole different vibration. And then find somebody in your private life you can kind of bounce ideas off.
Yeah.
you ain't never lost for words a day.
You said it. You said it. I mean, it's like, yep. I would have dropped this mic, but they won't hear me. It's like, I can't drop this mic right now.
Don't drop that one. No, don't drop that one. We can't.
Exactly. I gotta find what I could drop.
Because I gotta send you another one from the States, and it'll take 2 weeks and all of that.
Right. Stuff. Exactly. Yeah. And it's gonna go through COVID test and all that other stuff. You know. Speaking. Oh boy.
Don't drop the mic. Don't drop the mic.
Right. So we're getting ready to release this conversation, okay. Dr. Kurt. Thank you for your consciousness. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for how you show up. Thank you for being who you are. I love and appreciate how you're showing up, which is on another topic. Is the reason why I reached out to you, and I'm coming. I'm coming.
I already know. I already know.
Before you go, is there anything that you're doing, or maybe you want to give information how people can find you, if you're doing any kind of speaking engagement, or you got courses, or whatever you want to do? This is your opportunity to just do what they call shameless plug. Just plug away.
I appreciate it. I just offer people to follow me online. I share my ideas and my life because I enjoy it. For two reasons: to make a difference and to show a life that I love. I hadn't always been in this space, and so I'm happy and proud of who I am and what I'm doing now. And I just want to give people permission to give themselves permission to do that. Right? Mm-hmm. You're gonna have critics. You're gonna have that. Reach out to me if that's a struggle for you, right? Because I've been there in a lot of different ways. So find me online, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Let's just hang out. I may not always comment, but I see what I see when it's my time to. I do spend time laying across my couch, scrolling aimlessly as a way to relax, right? Because I do.
Social media meditation. Yeah, or you can call it social meditation.
Exactly. I tell people that all the time. Like, look, I see you. So show up, right? Promote what you love. I'm honored to share space with you. I love invitations. I love sharing space. It's just a good thing for me. And I'm just happy to be where I am now. I know that things are different from me because I'm getting invitations and sharing space with great individuals like you. And it ain't always been like this, right? So I don't take it lightly. Come hang out with me. I appreciate your listeners and your viewers. I appreciate your platform. I know we're going to do things off this for years to come. Yeah. I think that you bring a wealth of energy and knowledge in a very unique way of soothing. Your views are soothing, right? You can hit them hard and we'll be like, did he just punch me in the face? Right? so right. Did Ade just say what he said? But it don't feel like the same way. It don't feel like we've been punched in the face, but you did.
You know what's funny about that? I remember You outed me. So I had a producer many years ago. I don't know, maybe almost 20 years ago now. She said, your approach is a slap and a kiss approach. I said,
Right.
what do you mean? She said, when people come to you with some questions or some BS, you slap them, but you have this formula that just before they realize you slapped them, you give them a kiss.
Exactly.
They're like, did he just slap me?
Exactly. And that is in my opinion, the spiritual dance of uniquely and healthily balancing a strong balance of femininity and masculinity energy where it's needed. And you one of the best at that. Trust me, I interact with a lot of people. You're one of the best at that.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. I'm cracking up on the inside.
You already know,
I
huh?
feel like I'm naked. It's like, ooh, child, stop. Right. Blam.
Right, exactly.
It's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right. Right. But that's how our ancestors used to do it. Like, come here.
Yeah. Yes.
Give me a hug. Right.
It's like, my head is hurting, but this feels good.
Exactly.
My brother. Thank you, man. So much. Thank you for being here. And you're right. We're going to be doing a lot more things together. I just know it. I feel it.
Thank you. Thank you to your producer, Leslie. She always comes through. Love how she puts it all together behind the scenes. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you.
Talk soon.
Yes, indeed. Life is good. It's getting better. I'm all exposed. I feel vulnerable. Not. I love it. I love it. I love it. Just when I interact with brothers. Yeah, brothers, because I have a lot of female friends, a lot of female clients, but I'm with another brother and can go there and it just fills me up. And the truth is we need each other. Yes, the theme is what can men do to lift women up? We're in this together. And we're living in challenging times. White dominance, I think Dr. Kirk called it. White supremacy is running rampant. And people are being killed just because of how they look, whether they're Asian, whether they're black. There's so much going on in the world. It just makes you go, what's really going on? God, what's going on? Or whatever you believe in. However, I think we must also remember that we can lift each other up quicker when we understand that the issue in the world is not just white dominance, white supremacy, male supremacy. What we're seeing that we're giving this label to, it's a human way of being that needs to be healed. It's not just a white thing, it's that and more. So the more we do our work, the more we can lift one another up. The more we can live in a world that we're envisioning, as opposed to expecting it to happen when we're gone or feeling depressed, sad that it's not going to happen for our children right now. Well, if you're concerned about the world you're leaving for your children, then I challenge you, are you doing enough to leave a world for your children, whether they're biological or not, spiritual children, your nieces and nephew? If you're worried about it, then that means you ain't doing enough. I'm going to just be a little bit bold. You ain't doing enough. But it's all good because God loves you anyway, right? A slap and a kiss. But at the end of the day, this place, I see it as a place for us to strengthen our human muscle. On a spiritual level, all good, all aligned. And we want to experience more of life and more of ourselves. So the more we hold ourselves accountable, the more we challenge ourselves, the more we can hold space for the healing, for the healing of humanity, the growth that wants to happen. And where the media is telling Black people how to be in solidarity with Asian people, particularly in America right now, yeah, that's a topic like, is you flipping kidding me? We can even rise above and not even waste time with that BS. Like, how do we be in solidarity with one another so we can lift one another up? That is the charge. And you can't lift someone up if you ain't strong enough. You can't be strong if you ain't doing the work. If you want to do the work, you got to go within, because it's messy in there. But everything you find out within yourself, you come up with, gives you the strength to hold yourself up and others. If you want to deepen your experience, your aha moments, or whatever you're feeling, and feeling like, yes, there's more to be done, I feel like there is more in me that I want to give birth to, you can check out my website. Let's work together. lifecoachade.com, lifecoachade.com. My dear sister Shoyinka on IG, thank you for being here. Robin, thank you for being here. Carly, Kwali, New Jays, Charles, and all the other people. Brother John, was it? Let me scroll up. Marion is here, was here, or still is here. Tony, not John. Tony, thank you all for being here. Those of you who are listening, watching behind the scenes or not in the chat room, those of you who listen to the archive, thank you. Leslie, thank you for what you do, how you do it, for your badassery. You just say, what do you need? You're like, got it. And then I go into all these stories. You're like, I got it. And then you, thank you. I appreciate you. What else do I need to tell you? Join me tomorrow, Ricky Byers, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. UK time. And there's some other things. Check out Women's Journey Retreat. Women's Journey, WOMANS, Journey Retreat, .com. Kathy Stringer is hosting this retreat, a 2-day retreat. Get all information. If you register, when you register, make sure you use the promo code WJ2021-LCA. Life Coach Ade. You get 10% off the registration. And also save the date. I got 3 events coming up in April, May, and June. Representing our ancestors, representing our stories. When you get to meet your ancestors in a new way, and you're willing to humanize them in a way that the world doesn't, you get to tell a new story about yourself. April 24th, May 16th, June 19th. More information to come. Just save the date. Thank you. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. What else? Just want to look in the chat room, see if there's anything I missed. Pat, thank you. You're welcome, my dear sister. And all the women who are supporting men to be their best, thank you. Who are raising sons, thank you. Who are having your son express their vulnerability, thank you. Humanity, thank you. My dear sister Electra on IG, thank you very much. Love and appreciate you all. I think that's it, Leslie. Anything else I need to say? I think we're good, right? We're good. And if I don't say it, then it must not need to be said. I think that's it. It's time to go, because it's time to grow. Well, we've been growing. All right, people, I love you. Thank you. And I invite you, nudge you to take this consciousness and multiply it, because it's worth it. You're worth it. That's why you're here. You're here to multiply the consciousness of truth. I'm out. Peace and blessings.